G'day ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another edition of SuperCoach Edge, of course BBL edition, as we come out of round 6, and as you can see here, it was a favourable week for once. Finally, had some luck, ended up scoring a 1,207, and as you can see there, more than halved my rank, going up 601 ranking spots to now sit ranked 589th overall. Of course, still yo-yoing in and out of the top 1K, but hopefully this is the start of me catapulting towards the top 250 and hopefully the top 100 over the next couple of weeks. So pretty good week. As you can see there, team value of 2,542.3, which is very, very handy, considering that, as we touched on in the early episodes, the appreciation in value of your team is ever important at this stage of the season, late in the season, when you need as much dollary dues to afford the higher priced players, the likes of Sams, Maxi, Hardy, Matt Short, so on and so forth. So we're in a pretty good position here, which is good to see, and it really goes to show that with the planning side of things, with my salary cap and jumping on guys that break-evens have been favourable, hopefully it puts me in good stead for the remainder of the season. Of course, I'm going to keep this as a relatively tight, quick episode, because at the moment, as I record this, I do have an internet outage, so it means I need to sort of condense the size of this episode in order for it to be uploaded via my mobile. So we'll see. I have to hotspot off that. So anyway, we'll keep it quick fire, which is always a good thing. But that's how I went in round 6. It was very, very good. As you can see here, I've already executed 2 of the 3 trades. But nonetheless, let's have a look at how we performed in round 6 with notable players. So as you can see here, Inglis 125. A lot of people had him, but super happy with him. McDermott was on my bench with a 35. He actually did pretty well considering. Pushed up the order due to Matty Wade being out due to that back ailment. Again, he's one to watch, because if Matty Wade's out again, it means that McDermott will be promoted to being an opener yet again. And of course, taking the gloves, so it does elevate his scoring ceiling coming into round 7, which of course is probably a good segue to mention that the Hobart Hurricanes, they're on a double. Brisbane Heat are on a double, and the Scorchers, again, are on a back-to-back double. So in terms of the other guys that went well, Matt Short was my El Capitano. This team, of course, is with the changes that I've made heading into round 7, but Matt Short, he was my captain. 264, an absolute gun. And it came down to that 50-50 call between, Aaron Hardy or Matt Short. Looked as though early stages in the first game for the Scorchers that Hardy was building a little bit of an innings with the bat, but thankfully, he did go out around about 30 odd, and then he, of course, was sort of hit on the head in terms of being outed for around about that same mark in the second of the 2 double games. So that saved me. That was kind of a 50-50 call that a lot of people had to make, but without fail, I always back in the Messiah, the man, the myth. He is the man. It is Matt Short. Paul Walter. He scored an 86. Tall Paul, an absolute gun, a bit of a cult figure. It seems like he's growing in stature, because if you haven't seen it, check out and take note of his pants, or at least in the last game, because he was wearing pants that didn't fit him. So you could see pretty much his full socks. Unless that's sort of a bit of a stylistic thing that he's going with, Tall Paul, but an absolute gun and a treat to watch with bat and ball. He scored an 86. Connolly with a 48, which is pretty serviceable. Expecting less than that, so he did pretty well, exceeded expectations there. Even rolled the arm over, which was good as well. The other guy I had in my team was Overton, who ended up scoring around about 70 odd. He is a trade out this week for me. Darcy Short, he was on field, of course, for the Strikers double with a 56. Serviceable enough, which was good to see. In terms of trades that I did, you would have said in the previous episode, but they were Xavier Bartlett. I opted to bring him in a week early with round 7 in mind, considering the Heat on the double. So he scored a 37. I was expecting him to bowl the very last over. Surprisingly, he didn't. Spencer Johnson actually bowled that last over and didn't get a wicket, mind you. So a bit of a waste. But Xavier, the man, the X-Man, he was Serviceable enough, 37. I was hoping for a couple of wickets, wasn't to be, but got a few dot balls and whatnot, and was very, very handy. So glad that I've got him because he is going to be one of the most traded in players for round 7. So saved me a bit of a headache there. And he had a lower break even as well. So he went up around about 5k or thereabouts, close to 6k. So he saved me a little bit of coin. But considering he's around about the 200k mark, you've got Maxi at 230.5. Daniel Sams is around about 220 or thereabouts. You've got Matt Short. Obviously, most people have him, but I think there's like 49% of the competition don't, surprisingly. What are you doing? 318.8. Paul Walter, for those people that don't have him, that really you should be getting him in, 195.9. These guys here, they're all at a high price point, and it means that some people are going to be priced out of the market if they haven't, like I said at the very start, got their team value up and don't really have much of a salary cap to work with to bring these big price players into their teams. So I brought him in early, Xavier. Happy enough with him. Also brought in AJ Ty, 72, not bad. Jai Richardson, 65. Was expecting more than what they actually produced in terms of their score because they are pretty reliable more often than not. But of course, in that second game against the Strikers, none of their bowlers did really anything apart from, I guess for those more notable big name Scorchers that most people had, in Ty and Richo and so on and so forth. And then that was it. Those were my 3 trades. So Ty, Richo, and Xavier Bartlett in. Let's have a look at round 7. As I mentioned there, with the Heat, the Hurricanes, and the Scorchers on doubles. Those are the guys to target. For me personally, from the get-go, I will say I'm not targeting any more Canes players. They're averaging 4 wickets a game, which just isn't enough, and it means we can't really rely upon the bowlers, especially, which, as we know, you rely on the bowlers to score more than the batsmen more often than not. And, obviously those players that are DPP as well, in bowlers, batsmen, all that sort of stuff. But I ended up bringing in Nathan Ellis a couple of rounds earlier, and I'm kind of kicking myself now because even though I probably would consider him for this round, again, I wouldn't say he's a must-have. Meredith is another one I was looking at a few rounds ago to bring in early, and that was a 50-50 call. Brought in Ellis over Meredith, and I was thinking, I might get Meredith when we actually reach round 7, but I'm going to bypass him. Again, I just don't trust the Hurricanes. But if you're going to go for any players, I'd be obviously targeting Brisbane Heat players. Both of their double games are at the Gabba, so 2 home games, which is super, super handy. And I'd be targeting the guys like Xavier Bartlett, Paul Walter, 100%. He's the number 1 target if you haven't got him. Xavier Bartlett's probably the second big target that you should bring into your team. He's really good, stepped up, and he's playing, bowling those death overs. And then, of course, we have Kuhnemann, who is my first trade for this round. So a bit of a segue there. He has been the most informed spin bowler for them. Swepson started the season quite well, but Kuhnemann's really taken over. And in the game in round 6, he was an absolute dynamo, Kuhnemann, with the ball, spinning the ball like crazy. And playing, again, as I said, on their home deck, the 2 games, is going to be very favourable for Kuhnemann. So I'll be locking him in as a must-have, for me anyway. He's probably third down the pecking order in terms of those guys I'd be targeting outside of Walter and Bartlett. But he comes in. And then in terms of the other trade, so what I've done at the moment is I had Steckity, and I've traded him to Jilks. So what I've done here is, and the thinking behind it is, I've obviously got McDermott on the bench there. And without having that DPP batsman wicketkeeper loop, or I guess swing, it means now that with Jilks, I can actually swing McDermott on field if need be. But you'll notice I haven't done that as yet. And this trade isn't locked in 100% because what I've done here, considering that Maxwell is obviously back this week playing the first game of the round, I'm going to be looping his score off the bench potentially if he happens to score well, which we're obviously expecting him to do so because he's the big show, he's an absolute gun. And if that happens, then Jilks will be used as that potential loophole player to loop on Maxi's score. If Maxi doesn't score well enough, I am quite willing to obviously use Jilks' DPP swing to put Jilks on the wicketkeeper bench and then swing McDermott on field. And then it means I'll be obviously relying upon, in terms of single game players, Matt Short, which I think you have to. Don't be fading him. Don't be silly. He plays the second last game, so there's no real opportunity to sort of loop anyway. So don't try anything too cute. Back him in is an obvious gun, as we've said, and as we saw with that 264 last round. And McDermott, he will be coming on field. McDermott's obviously got a double as well, so I don't necessarily want to fade him. But in terms of all those sort of double game plays that I've got, in terms of the guys that I might fade, it'd probably be Connolly or McDermott. Considering that the Hurricanes play both of their double games away, the first at the Gabba and the second at Adelaide Oval. So that's sort of my thinking there. If Maxi does score well, I might even swap Jilks to an even cheaper Nuffy, which I think at this stage, what's his name? I think it's Nope. What's his name? There's a guy for the Brisbane Heat. Let me just see if I can find him. If my internet works here. If it doesn't, then... Oh, that's actually pretty good. That's just hotspotting. So, good work, hotspot. You've saved us, Telstra, yet again. Too bad if you're Optus, because that doesn't happen more often than not. But what we will do is we'll just go to Brisbane, sort it. And I'm pretty sure he's a DPP player as well, which is part of the appeal of getting this guy. Burden, that's his name. Hugo Burden would be anything but a burden, because at 42k it means you can get a bottom price player, but also a Brisbane Heat player, and noting that the Heat have the bye in the very last round in round 9, so it means that you have a captaincy loophole option there if you want to lock in a VC score, which no doubt with the Thunder playing the first game in round 9, you'd want to put it on someone like a Daniel Sams. But also, it means with that DPP swing that I can activate a swing with, say, a Stoinis, and so on and so forth, depending on what trades I do next round and then into round 9. So I really like that option. Obviously, it affords me a bit more cash, as you can see there. Bit of a difference there. 40k, that's 40.2k actually, that I'd be saving by going for Bird instead of Gilks or Jilks. It means, though, that I don't have that DPP swing for the remainder of the season unless I bring in a wicketkeeper or if I bring in Jilks for the coming rounds. So I'll need to think about that, especially if I want to sort of nab a McDermott, nab his score over the coming rounds. But the 87.8k is going to be very, very handy to try and bring in Daniel Sams. I won't be able to bring in Daniel Sams this round, unfortunately. I just don't have the coin for it. But next round, I will be targeting him 100%. If Daniel Sams wasn't playing in the middle of the round for this round 7, I would probably, if he was playing early, I'd be bringing him in because you'd be able to loop him off the bench. I could ideally loop a Maxwell off the bench in the batsman category and then loop Daniel Sams off the bench in the bowlers category. So considering that he's playing the third game of the round, smack bang in the middle, it means that it makes it a little bit harder to try and loop on his score if he performs well. So you'd almost need to play him outright. And as I said, I'm pretty happy to roll with Matt Short and then, roll with McDermott in case that Maxwell doesn't score well. You could always go with Matt Short as your single game player. And then, if Maxi doesn't, if you had the cash, ideally I could go, Maxwell, loop off the bench. If he scores well, if he doesn't, I could then trade, say, Darcy Short to Daniel Sams and then put Sams on field where Jilks is at the moment. But it is what it is. I can't afford it. And I'll be looking to bring Sams in next week. You'll note here as well that I've obviously got one trade left. My thoughts behind this are probably to do with bringing in a Thunder player early. I could also bring in another double game player, but I don't really want to overload myself. Note that the Brisbane Heat, they have, as I said, they've got the bye in the very last round, so you don't really want to be overloading on them, albeit you could bring them in and obviously trade them out at the conclusion of round 8, heading into round 9. But for me, I'm not really crash hot on any of the Hurricanes players. And with the Scorchers, obviously, I think we've got enough Scorchers players here. We've obviously got the 5 from the last round for their double game round. And I can see if we just scroll down here, no surprise here, given that I mention it all the time, and I did especially in the previous episode, but recency bias. A lot of people see a player score well, and they think, oh, damn, I've got to jump on that play for the very next round. And I guess there's a bit more, a bit more impetus to do so, I guess, considering that the Scorchers are on a double again. Yes, but the chances of Laurie Evans getting that opportunity that he had where he scored that 80 odd and smashed out that mammoth score, the chance of that happening again is pretty slim to none. He bats close to middle order. He's batting behind the likes of Hardy, Inglis, Creepy Crawley, Eskenazi may even come in for Whiteman this round. So there's quality ahead of him. And if the Scorchers actually play well with the bat, and are more, considering that they kind of shot themselves in the foot, especially against the Strikers in their second game, they may try to build an innings a bit more and not try to smash, depending on when they bowl or bat first in both of their double games. But I think that you're kind of shooting yourself in the foot. Yes, Evans has a negative 40 break even. He doesn't really have to score anything to go up in price. But at this point of the season, you shouldn't be prioritizing any cash cows. I guess if you are in need of like building a bit of bank, there is a bit of merit to it because Laurie Evans is going to play a double game. And as I said, he's going to go up in cash, depending on how he scores, of course. But at the very minimum, I think if he scores a 0 or something, he'll probably go up 5 to 10K if that, or maybe even more. I haven't done the sums on it. But yeah, he is someone that at a very, very pinch, you could probably bring in if you needed cash. But outside of that, I wouldn't be getting him in at all. Then looking at these other traded in players, Chris Jordan, not a massive fan of him. He's had like one good game and that's it. So he's not ever been known to be a consistent player in any sense of the word. He had one good game and that was about it. Lance Morris, again, recency bias, people jumping on him because he smashed out, the Pfeiffer in the first of the doubles in round 6. So I wouldn't be going on him, especially considering that I still think some of their pace attack, the Scorchers, will be rested this round, considering that both of their games are away games at Sydney and in Brisbane at the Gabba. And then, of course, noting that their previous game was in Adelaide. So they've had 3 back-to-back-to-back interstate games. So I think in terms of the travel factor, coming from Perth, other side of the country, I think it kind of makes sense for them to rest some players. So they might, have an extended squad, but I think I'm fully expecting for Eskenazi to come in, and I think that the likes of, say, Berendorf, who I noted in the last episode, and on Twitter if you saw that as well, Berendorf got rested this time last year when they had 3, again, back-to-back-to-back interstate games. So I'm fully expecting for that to happen again, considering it happened last season. And Berendorf has a history of soft tissue injuries, but also the fact that Jai Richardson, he had a limited preseason coming into the BBL due to injury, has worked back into full fitness by all reports. They've always said that, the coaches, across the course of the BBL season thus far, but they may use this as an opportunity to give him a rest as well. But it is what it is. They're kind of highly owned, and if they get rested, can't do too much about it. And because they're highly owned, it kind of negates any of that risk, but also, I guess, downside of only having those guys play one of the 2 games. Moving down the list, Colin Munro, I think, he's a very good option. If I was to go for another Brisbane Heat player, it'd probably be him. He started the season like a house on fire, but he's kind of struggled for the remainder, but I think he is well overdue, as we've seen in the BBL season so far, where guys have had a run of down games. They burst out of the blocks and have a big game. Happened with Chris Lynn, has happened with Stoinis on New Year's Eve, and there's been a few other players as well do likewise. So don't mind Colin Munro. Josh Brown, he's more hit and miss, more volatile compared to Munro, so not a massive fan of him. And that is pretty much that, I think. In terms of this, sorry, I don't think I mentioned it, but this third trade here, what I'll be thinking of doing is bringing in a Thunder player just to get a jump on the rest of the competition because, as I said, I'm quite happy to have 9 double game week players plus Matt Shaw plus Maxi, or 10 double game week players if I was to use McDermott instead of Maxwell, and Matt Short would be my single game player, my only single game player. So yeah, I'll be looking to bring in potentially off the back of a Darcy Short, someone like a Chris Green, someone of that ilk, because I can't afford Sams at the moment, unfortunately. But if I bring in Chris Green, it means that there's one less player that I need to bring in. I could bring in Alex Hales as well, potentially. I'll need to crunch some numbers and work out who to bring in first. That's best. I won't be able to click on them because my internet and my hotspot isn't so reliable at the moment. But I'll be looking to compare break-evens. Whoever's got the lowest break-even and who's likely to go up in cash, I'll be bringing in first, whether it's Chris Green, Alex Hales, Bancroft I'm worried about. I'm not going to go for him as yet until next week, until we know that he's going to play both of the double games, because there is a chance that he gets selected in the test squad for the West Indies series that's coming up. So that's kind of my thinking behind that. And I've already got Sanger. So it does mean that going into next round, I've already got 2 Thunder players in my team. And, you know, with the double coming up for the Thunder in round 9, last round of the season, it means that if I dedicate my 3 trades next week and the 3 trades for round 9 for Thunder players, it means that 6 Thunder players plus the 2 that I've got here. So that'll mean that I've got 8 double game week players. And I don't know if I'll be doing that because I guess the depth and quality of the Thunder players isn't as deep compared to others, comparing it to, say, a Brisbane Heat or a Perth Scorchers or even Strikers. So I might even look to get a few of the big name single game players outside of Maxi, Short, and Hardy, and so on and so forth. So we'll see how things turn out there. But that's virtually my thinking going into round 7. As I said, just to recap, Kuhneman's coming into my team. I'll be bringing in a loophole player, whether or not that's Jilks, to then loop on McDermott if Maxwell doesn't score well, and I don't lock in Maxwell's score. I'll be trading Jilks or swapping him rather, as like a trade candidate to the Brisbane Heat player that I spoke of earlier. That's the 42K. It's going to save me 40.2K in cash going for him instead of Jilks, and it's going to give me, 97.8k, 87.8k for next week to target Daniel Sams and a few more Thunder players heading into the Thunder's double in round 9. And that's pretty much it. As I said, I could potentially try and loop. Actually, what I'll do here is I'll put Stoinis as the emergency here. Unless Stoinis absolutely smashes it, I don't think I'll be looping on Stoinis' score. But who knows, Stoinis may go well and Maxwell may go shit, which, funnier things have happened. But if that happens, then I'll just switch someone down here to the batsman category. But I don't know if I'll be able to do it because I'm pretty set with all these guys here and they don't have DPP. So unless Stoinis, as I said, goes out of the blocks and absolutely smashes it, it's going to force my hand. I might not play Kuhneman and have like a loophole player here to loop on Stoinis' score. But other than that, as I said, that's sort of my plan with Maxwell being looped on. And if not, McDermott comes down to the batsman category. Jilks goes to the wicketkeeper bench. And happy days. In terms of VC and C options, just to round us out, Paul Walter, absolute gun. I think he speaks for himself. You got to put it on him. Batsman, bowler, genuine all-rounder, and has been performing well for pretty much throughout the entire season thus far. So happy enough with him. And then I'll be whacking the C on Aaron Hardy, I think, at this stage. Another double, of course. I could potentially put it on Matt Short on a single. Plays obviously on his home deck, Adelaide Oval, which is an absolute road. So no doubt he comes out and smashes a nice score. So I guess if you're looking for a bit of a pod captaincy, which is funny to say when you're talking about pods and pod captaincies and Matt Short, because normally he is the most captain player on any given round. But of course it was the 50-50 between Hardy and Matt Short last round. But I think if you want to go against the grain, Matt Short is a surefire bet on his home deck, batting on an absolute road at Adelaide Oval, conducive to batsmen scoring well against Hobart Hurricanes, which they haven't been the informed team this season. So don't mind that, but I think at this stage, Paul Walter VC and Aaron Hardy with the big El Capitano. That is it, ladies and gents. So let's end it there. Give me a little bit of time to upload this, hopefully before the game starts tonight, so you can tune in and watch this. But of course, as always, if you have any comments and questions, let us know down below in the comment section here. Otherwise, you can hit us up, of course, on Twitter at @SuperCoach_Edge. Hopefully you had a great round coming out of round 6 like myself and have gone up the ranks. And for those still in contention, fingers crossed that you can consolidate and finish with a very nice rank. But apart from that, all the very best for round 7. And if you've liked what you've seen across the course of the BBL season, of course, and the content that we've been producing, if you can lob us a subscribe, that would be absolutely awesome. But until next time, we'll see you, same time, same place. We'll catch you then. Cheers.